Michael also says D-Hop is washed. I am skeptical. You start to get north of 30. I'm just not interested in the number. Like the number that it's going to command. I'm just not. I'm not interested, man. I know a lot of people are and stuff like that. Woodward heavyweights 5 to 7 every day here on Woodward Sports Network.
Yeah.
What's been the D-Hop vibe there?
I think a lot of people would like him, but they're not thinking it's realistically going to happen. I look at teams that are in contention for him being Kansas City, Baltimore.
Usual suspects.
Usual suspects. The guys, he said he wants a great defense, a quarterback who loves to play football, and stable upper management and coaching.
It was interesting to see those comments when he talked about that, about how management was important to him and things like that. Mm-hmm. Because everywhere he's been, it has been a bit of a circus. But you know what, though, D-Mac? Like, at some point, don't you contribute to that circus?
No, but if that's sort of true, then what you're talking about, a rebate, right? You got to be going to somebody for a rebate, and it looks like that's what's going to have to happen anyways, to go to one of these championship teams that move it in. Maybe he's, sort of got a change of heart. Isn't the one question, though, about the locker room, right? Isn't that, like, I'm not worried about his talent, but I'm worried about everywhere he goes. It's sort of disruptive around where he's at. Now you have some veteran guys in that locker room and the wide receiver room and Marvin Jones and Josh Reynolds. Ross St. Brown has earned the respect as an everyday wide receiver. So I guess it's if Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell determine that the talent, while Jamison Williams is out, let's talk about what a better replacement, right? At the beginning of the year or something like that. And if they think that it can work, if the management does matter in this conversation, then maybe these conversations are going on now. My question to you, Neil, isn't June 1st like the date that we got to wait till anyways? So yeah. That's coming up quick. That's Thursday. So maybe that's when we hear all the verbal diarrhea when it can be done, whether we sign them or we don't sign them, the reason, the conversation. I'm sure we'll hear why we did or why we didn't.
Right, and because it is the quote-unquote NFL New Year, technically, on June 1st. So you'll see a lot of the financial moves made because when you cut people, it allows you to spread dead cap. You can spread dead cap into the following season. So that's the reason that teams will wait. That was why I thought the Aaron Rodgers thing wasn't going to get done until June 1st, but obviously it did. Because the Packers employed their strategy. They said, look, we're just going to eat it all this year, then wash our hands of it and be done, which, I don't hate that strategy. I like that strategy too. But, we'll see what the fallout is. And I think that the Lions, maybe one of the reasons you haven't heard anything is because they're doing it too. Like, you're going to have this, when all these guys get cut, June 1, you'll have to see how things fall out. Because there's always two names where everybody sees it and they're like, what? He got cut?
Right.
Like that, it happens every year. Every year it's like that. The same way where we talk about when we look at the Lions depth chart and the players they have. And I always kind of chuckle, D-Mac, because everyone just assumes that's going to be the group that plays the whole year, which it's never
does.
The case.
Injuries.
Yeah, injuries happen, man. That's the way that it works. There's always a couple of names you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that guy got cut. So I think, here's what I think, D-Mac, and this just kind of popped in my head as I was bringing up that point. And this is why I love Brad Holmes. And this is what has missed from the Detroit Lions organization from all their years of buffoonery, is he will let value dictate what he does. If there's a number that makes a lot of sense, he'll jump in. And if there's not a number that makes sense, he ain't interested. Like it seems so simple to say, doesn't it? But when you look at his track record and what he's done, guys he's gotten, you talked about Steve Eiserman doesn't give anything away. Well, Brad Holmes doesn't look to be giving anything away either, man. And I love that.
No, and there's an argument at different times where you have to pay, right? There's question marks at different times, right? You question Brad Holmes and why he extended Jared Goff until you understood, I get it now. So sometimes it doesn't play out. I think Steven Surratt brought it up in the chat thread. That's how we got big booty bugs, right? As Terry likes to call them. You need the big booties up front.
So we
But
got
that's a
Snacks couple
value,
years
right?
ago. That's how we got Snacks Harrison a couple years ago.
Snacks.
Yeah.
No, exactly. So you want your GM to understand value to your roster, and I guess you make it more clear that's what he does. So it'll be interesting. Let's see what else is out there, because maybe instead of Hopkins at what number, 15. Can just out of argument's sake, right?
Yeah.
15. What if somebody else, like you said, falls down that they really like receiver, and you can get him for 8?
You know
That's
which way
more
I'm going.
Brad Holmes' way, right? That because as somebody trying to remember, I don't know, but he said no turds. Dan Campbell, no turds in the locker room, right? And it's subjective or not whether DeAndre Hopkins is a turd or not, because you're just bringing up faxes everywhere it goes, right? What's the old adage, Neil? At the end of the day, no matter where you go, you bring yourself with you. And then sometimes you got to look in the mirror.
For good or bad.
But I also believe that, people can change in different situations, and you can be put in a situation where if you want to, it can help.
Brandon says Buffalo's all in this year. They'll sign Hopkins if he wants to go there. Buffalo's sitting there with $1.6 million in cap space right now. That's it. So they'd have to move some furniture around in order to do that. So, it is interesting though. It is nice though. And look, again, I know when you boil this all down, they haven't made the playoffs yet. But the Lions are that designer team, D-Mac. They're in when, Adam Schefter or somebody tweets. They talk about the Lions now, man. This is a wild time to be alive, isn't it?
It is. It absolutely is. It's the perfect time, right? And some of the young Lions fandom don't understand what they're getting into as some of the older ones, but we're all in the same boat. And I think we're all in the same boat, is that we can all agree is that we trust the guy at the helm now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Shad216 says most people would say Holmes took a risk keeping Goff. So what exactly are you talking about? Well, it broke down to what I discussed before, and what I've said from minute one is with what he's produced, he makes less money than what he produces. And I think at the root of it all, that was why Brad Holmes did what he did with Goff. Because obviously he was familiar with him, number one, but number two, he said, hey, if he puts it together, there's a chance to be a good value.
But look at the way of the quarterback contract before he did that. That's being ahead of the game too, and getting the value to be able to, instead of being pushed yourself in a corner where you got to pay $40 million to a Derek Carr or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
As I always like to say, D-Mac, we're in a world right now where Kyler Murray makes $48 million. That's the world we're in right now, and Goff's at 32. So you tell me.
That's the whole bunch of players. If you wanted, that's your rookie whole class. It's your whole rookie contract.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's it is. It's real. It's real.
Those
and
are
that's
facts.
how he operates.
And the fact,
man.
so you bring up, Neil, and this was what made me thinking, is the fact that you look around to the teams that are supposed to be ahead of schedule of where the Lions are and how much money they have left in their bank account. Like you said, 1.6 for Buffalo. Well, Brad Holmes knows that too. So it's all about value. I don't think it matters the name. It matters what the value is and how it can help this club.
Yeah, absolutely. Next segment, I do want to ask the question for the people, because I know we've touched on this in the past, but as OTAs now have kind of come and gone, and we're 7 weeks away from training camp?
Hell yeah.
You believe that, man?
Okay.
7 weeks away from training camp, bro.
Pretty wild.
Let's go.